This is Science Module 2, Lesson 1, Reproduction in Plants. This is the first part of a 2-video series for this topic. And after this lesson, you should be able to understand that living things reproduce to ensure continuity of their own kind. You should also understand that characteristics pass on from adult to young, and understand the ways plants reproduce and the parts of a flower. Let's move on, shall we? Now, why do living things reproduce? Living things reproduce to ensure continuity of their own kind and prevent them from getting extinct, like the dinosaurs you see over here. Living things pass on characteristics from parents to their young. Many times the young do not look like the parents, but they eventually do as they grow. These characteristics are passed on through their genes. Some characteristics that are passed on in humans are blood type, type of hair, color of eyes, color of skin, etc. There are many more. Characteristics that are passed on in plants include taste of fruits, presence of seeds, shape of leaves, and again, there are many more characteristics that are passed on. Let's look at the sexual reproduction in plants. Flowers are the reproductive organs of flowering plants. A male reproductive cell fuses with a female reproductive cell to grow into a new plant. When the male and female reproductive cells meet, this is called a sexual reproduction. Non-flowering plants do not have flowers, and so they reproduce by asexual reproduction. Let's look at the parts of a flower right now. What you see over here is a labeled flower. Now, a flower is made up of two main parts. We've got the male and the female parts. The petals are the neutral part of the flower, and it helps to attract pollinators such as insects and birds. It also helps to protect the main reproductive parts, for example, the ovary, ovules, the stigma, the style, anther, and the filaments. These are all the main reproductive parts, and the petals protect them. Looking at the male parts, we've got the anther. Now, the anther contains the pollen. It produces the pollen, as it says over here. This here, you see the anther, is this thing over here. What is the pollen, you might ask? A pollen is a fine powder produced in some plants. It is needed for reproduction. So the pollen actually contains the male reproductive cell. You don't see the pollen anywhere in this image, is because it's produced by the anther. So it's small little speckles within the anther itself, right? And we have the filament here. Filament supports the anther. That's it. It's just a tube which supports the anther up. Now moving on to the female parts. We have the stigma. As you can see here, this is the stigma. The stigma is the first female part of the flower to receive the pollen grains. The style, this is your style. It holds up the stigma and leads down to the ovary that contains the ovules. The ovary is this whole thing over here, and it contains the ovules. Let me erase this. The ovules are these individual circles, you see. I'll change another color. These circles, these are the ovules. The whole thing here, this is the ovary. Alright? So the ovary contains the ovules, and this will develop into the fruit right after fertilization. The ovules contain the egg cells. The ovules contain the egg cells that are required for reproduction. This will develop into the seeds of the fruit after fertilization. And that is it for the first part. We will move in the next video. You will be learning more about the processes in the sexual reproduction in flowering plants. If you do not understand any part of the video, please go back, rewind it and rewatch it. And yeah, thank you. Bye bye.